face your fear. Instead of letting fear call your shots and say, avoid or escape, do this, you don't. You do the opposite. If anxiety says, don't be assertive, go be assertive.
Welcome back to the show. Today's guest is someone who brings both science and soul to the conversation when we talk about what it means to live a bold and meaningful life. Dr. Ashley is a licensed psychologist, a speaker, author, and the co-founder of Peak Mind, the Center for Psychological Strength. She challenges audiences around the world to master their minds, overcome fear, and expand what they believe is possible. Born with a rare visual impairment that makes her legally and progressively blind, Dr. Ashley knows firsthand what it takes to push past both real and perceived limits. Her life is a bold testament to resilience, courage, and choosing to live fully despite circumstances. Through a powerful blend of brain science, storytelling, and practical tools, she helps others do the same, reclaim their inner strength, and learn to see themselves and their lives in a new way. Her message is always abundantly clear. Your mind will hold you back if you let it. This episode is one you do not want to miss, packed with so much great information, insights, and practical tools. Hope you enjoy. Dr. Ashley, welcome to the show. I'm so honored to have you here.
I am so excited for our conversation today.
Yes, me too. And I want to start with that you have built your career helping others live boldly. And I know that's a message that resonates deeply with you on a very personal level. So I want to start from the beginning based on that. Can you share just a little bit about your own story and how your personal journey shaped the work that you do today?
Absolutely. So by training, I'm a psychologist. And so 20,000 years ago, when I started in graduate school, or about 20 years ago, I started studying anxiety. And anxiety really made sense. For me at the time, it was light bulbs going off of, oh, this explains some stuff from my teenage years in terms of social anxiety, feeling worried about being judged or lacking confidence. And so I got into anxiety. It made sense. I like the brain science behind it. I like how we really understand the way the mind works and therefore what to do to treat anxiety. And so that's what I did with my career. And it was amazing. I love helping people understand how their minds work and building the courage to chase big goals and to live lives that they love. But then on the personal side, I was born with a rare degenerative retinal disease that makes me legally and increasingly blind. And I've had this vision impairment since elementary school. And way back then, we didn't really know what was wrong with my eyes. We knew it ran in the family. My grandmother had a similar thing, but doctors couldn't answer the question of why, what this is, how bad will it get, what can we do about it. And so it was something that I think really shook my confidence. I always felt like it was a flaw or something that made me less than. And yet, I was able to hide it really well. So I got really good at faking sight, what my doctors called well adapted. But really, it was just, I didn't want people to know this about me because I thought if they knew this about me, if they knew about my flaw, they would reject me personally and professionally. And so I was able to overcome my own anxiety, build a lot of confidence, go create this amazing sort of dream career with this hanging out in the background. And then about 10 years ago, my vision loss progressed to the point that I could no longer drive. And for me, that was a very clear before and after moment because I couldn't fake it anymore, right? You can't fake driving a car. And so all of a sudden, I was thrust so far out of my comfort zone. I was thrust out of the disability closet, and I had to start telling people, I have this vision impairment. I'm legally blind, and it sucked. So for quite a while, I was really stuck. I was scared, I was sad, and I was really wallowing in this place of I don't know how to do this. I don't know what life is going to look like. And a nice side effect of my job is that I have really great coping skills. I know what to do with anxiety. I know what to do with depression. And it wasn't cutting it. And so at that point, I did the only thing I could think of to do, which was dive into science. I am a scientist at heart. And so I figured I can't change my vision. I don't want to be miserable. There's got to be an answer somewhere. So I dove into the science of happiness and started to learn everything I can. And when I put the science of happiness with my anxiety skills and everything I know about the human mind, I started to experiment and sort of feel my way forward. And here
Mhm.
we are. I am happier than I've ever been. I'm chasing bigger goals. I'm doing bolder things than I ever really thought was possible. And I'm doing this despite vision being the worst that it's been.
Mhm.
And so all of this has kind of come together to really fuel a passion of I'm not special. If I can do this, so can everyone else if you know how your mind works and you know how to keep it from working against you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to mention too, because mainly I just love the title, but I want to bring up your book here for a second
Mhm.
because you have your book, The Way I See It, which is a psychologist's guide to living a happier life. But I love the title, The Way I See It,
Mhm.
and especially hearing obviously your background story. So can you tell us what inspired that title? And then
Mhm.
also, what does it really mean to live life or at least see life through a new lens?
Yeah. So I love the title and I wish I could take credit for it, but I had a brilliant editor. And as I'm explaining the concept for the book, she said I would call it The Way I See It. And I was like,
Love it.
you're hired.
Love it.
So it's a really nice, I think it captures me, right? There's the way I see things literally because of my retinas. I don't experience the world the same way other people do. So
Right.
I definitely see things differently, but also because of my background in psychology, I see things differently. And so I think it so
Mhm.
beautifully captures that. And to me, the the living life boldly and living seeing things through a different lens, that is so critical. The thing that people don't understand is really how our mind works. Unless someone has explicitly taught you or you've sought out this knowledge, most people are running around thinking that their mind is just relaying some objective reality to them. The way you see things is the way that they actually are. The way you think about things is factually accurate or
Mhm.
important or meaningful. And it's not. Our brains are glitchy, right? They're designed to keep us alive. And to do that, they have to process all of the information that's coming in at us every second of the day. They have to sift through it to look for potential dangers. And in order to do that, they take shortcuts. And that means that our thinking, our beliefs, and our perceptions are all distorted. I like to tell people the biggest source of fake news is inside your head. And if you don't know that, your entire worldview is warped. It's like looking at a photo with a filter on, right? That's not what the photo really was. It was filtered in some way. And our minds filter our entire experience.
Yes, yes. I know that's one of the most powerful things that I've heard you say, and I believe it was on your TED Talk where you said, your mind will hold it back if you let it. And I thought that was so incredibly powerful. And like you just talked about, like because our mind is constantly filtering in things, if it filters out something that could have been important, that could shape an entire different reality for us and how we see things.
Absolutely.
Um, but I'm wondering for those listening and those who
Mhm,
may not have heard your TED Talk,
mhm.
can you explain like a little bit more about what that means in practice? How like does our mind hold us back
Yeah.
in a day to day?
Yeah. I love to share this story. I wish I could take credit for this one, but I got it from an episode of Westworld. But it
Oh,
is amazing. And the story goes something like this: a little girl and her mom go to the circus, and the little girl sees this massive elephant, and it's being held in place with a tiny little rope tied to a tiny little stake. And she's confused because she just learned at school that elephants are one of the strongest, most powerful beings on the planet. How is it that it's being held in place with this tiny little rope and a tiny little stake? So she asks. And the elephant tamer says, well, you see, when it was a baby, it wasn't strong enough to pull free. And now it doesn't know it can. And this is, I think, a really beautiful illustration of what we would call limiting beliefs. So our minds from day one are busy trying to figure out how the world works, how we fit into it so they can, again, keep us safe. But we don't have filters in place as kids. So it's like whatever we take in, our mind just starts connecting dots and creating rules for, how to be Ashley or how to be you in the world. And then that becomes the rules we follow. It becomes the bounds of our comfort zone. And then we stop questioning. So that
Yeah.
elephant, if it had had the knowledge of, oh, my mind is telling me I'm weak, maybe I'm not weak anymore. And if it had just tested it out, it would have seen that's not a real limitation.
Mhm.
It's in your head. And so many of us run into that. People like me can't speak up. Don't make other people mad. You're responsible for their feelings. You must do it all. You have to be perfect. Don't take risks. Whatever it is, we have all of these rules, these mental ropes holding us in
Mhm.
place that we're just taking as fact without realizing it's a mental construction. That's just what our mind sort of assumed and then said, hey, you know what? This is how you need to be.
Mhm. Mhm. One of the things I talk about a lot on this podcast is obviously like positive psychology,
Mhm,
but I talk about the energy behind our thoughts and how we think can give obviously positive or negative energy,
mhm,
and that can affect us down to even a cellular level.
mhm.
And I stress that a lot, but I think a lot of people still don't understand that it can affect more than just your emotions and how you feel at that moment, but it can affect your body.
Mhm.
But it can also affect the way we live, or at least shape the way we live, which is a lot of what you're
Absolutely.
talking about.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, just from a psychologist's point of view, can you explain a little bit more? I mean, you've touched on it already, but can you explain a little bit more about how our thoughts actually shape the way we live beyond just how we feel and how that
Yeah.
energy can affect us?
Yeah. Absolutely. Our thoughts drive our actions, both in terms of what we do and don't do. And so think about it. If you're walking down the road and you step on a pile of dog poop and you think, oh my gosh, I just stepped in this poop. And then what if I get to this meeting and everybody thinks that I stink? And what if it ruins my shoes? You're going to feel anxious. But what are you going to do? You're going to be constantly checking your shoe. You're going to be distracted. You're going to hang back from people. Imagine you're walking along, you step in that pile of dog poop, and this time you think, that stupid idiot, they shouldn't be allowed to have a dog if they're not going to control it. Then you're going to feel angry. And what are you going to do? You're going to huff and puff. You're going to snap at the next person who crosses your path. It's going to drive our actions. And these
Yeah.
are on an automatic thought level, right? If I step in the poop and I think, oh, it's no big deal, who cares? I'm going to wipe it off and go on about my day. So it can affect us just in that moment of how do we act? What do we do? But then our deeper beliefs, those really core beliefs, like for me, I had that belief I am flawed. If people know this about me, they'll reject me. How did that show up in my actions? In sneaky, subtle ways that it created a lot of shame. I didn't even know that that's what it was. But it meant that's the reason I wear contacts instead of glasses now, because contacts correct some of my vision, but not the blind spot. But I didn't like wearing glasses and then still not being able to see a sign and having to ask people. So it was really subtle avoidance. I probably made decisions about where to go to school and where to live. I mean, I still make decisions based on that. I need to live near a walkable grocery store because of vision. But when we have these beliefs deep down, like my I am flawed kept me from speaking up, asking for help. Can you give me a ride? Can you wave at me when I walk in? Can you tell me what that says? I'm much better about it now because I've shifted that belief. But our beliefs and our thinking drives everything that we do
Yeah.
unless you become aware of it and actively choose to act in opposition.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and I think the thing that came up as you were
Mm,
saying that is also worthiness. I think that's a constant
huge.
thing that comes up,
Mhm.
especially like with the coaching clients that I have. Worthiness and like self-doubt are just paramount. I mean, I think probably every single client I've had has dealt with that on some
Yeah,
level. Um, in addition to anxiety, and a lot of times that anxiety comes from a lot of these conditioning and limiting beliefs like we're talking about.
absolutely.
From your standpoint, or for a science standpoint, what's really going on? Like, what is really going on in our bodies, in our minds, when anxiety and insecurity and all of that take over?
Yeah, yeah. So One, it's important to know that every single person on the planet has anxiety. And the reason we have anxiety is because it's our brain's built in threat detection system. If you're camping in the woods, a bear shows up, you're going to feel anxious. Actually, you're going to feel fear, which is saying danger, because bears can eat people. But in our modern life, our brain perceives threat even when we're not physically in danger. So it started to any threat to our identity, to our ego, to our relationships, to our sense of security and safety triggers anxiety. And what happens when our anxiety gets triggered is our fight or flight response gets activated. And so you get a whole cascade of physiological changes in your body, stress hormones like cortisol and what most people refer to as adrenaline. And it's priming us to avoid or escape the threat. And that's it. And then what happens when we're in that anxious state, our attention gets very narrowed. So it's basically like anxiety hijacks our attention and we're just focused on the threat, the problem, whatever it is we need to fix or solve. So it's hard to think about other things. It's hard to shift your focus. We start to ruminate, especially in modern life where the problems don't go away. Like cave woman days, saber-toothed tiger shows up, boom, fight or flight, you run away, relax, right? But here, like every email you get is a potential, saber-toothed tiger. And so we never really escape it. And so the rumination continues. That's our brain just chewing on negativity. What could go wrong? We start to plan, even though we can't plan for everything. We can't control nearly as much as we want to. But all of this is going on just because our brain is trying to keep us safe.
Yeah. And it's so funny that it's one of those things where our brain is trying to do the right thing, a good job, and keeping us safe, but sometimes it backfires. I mean, and let's be honest, like we know that we aren't dealing with a bear, right? Like most
Yes.
of us aren't dealing with this life or death fear, but at the same time, because like as you stated, just the way the world is working right now, society constantly having to be on all the time, it can feel like real fear. That we're
Absolutely.
dealing with day in and day out, just from the anxiety standpoint. Like,
Yeah.
it's one thing to be like, well, I know fight or flight. Like, I know it. That makes logical sense. But the way I'm feeling in my body right now feels very real. Like, this is real fear.
It is. And there's a neuroscience reason behind this. There are two paths in our brain that lead to anxiety. One is, I like to call it the caveman and the CEO. It's essentially your limbic system and your prefrontal cortex. Think of that as emotion center and logic center. So information that comes in gets sent to both places. And so if it gets to your caveman first and your caveman is like, oh, I know this, it's bad. Stop. No logic kicks in. It's just bad. Sound the alarms. If it makes it past that and then it goes to the CEO, your prefrontal cortex, your logic center, that's where we can think our way into anxiety. Oh, but what if this happens? And then if it detects something bad, it still sends it to the caveman. Once it gets to your amygdala, that caveman, you can't think your way out of it. It's like the fight or flight system gets triggered. So this is why even if logically you're telling yourself it's okay, once that amygdala gets triggered, it's triggered. It's like the alarms are going off and you can't just think your way out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do we work with that? How do we start to um, let our nervous system know that we're okay,
Yeah.
we're safe,
Yeah.
beyond just your typical grounding techniques?
Absolutely. So one, self-compassion is essentially the psychological superpower. If I said here's a magic pill that will make you happier, less anxious, stressed, depressed, angry, it'll improve your health, make you live longer, would you take it? Yeah. Oh, by the way, no side effects and it's free. Everyone would take it. Oh, and improves performance. So if you want to be a high performer, self-compassion is it. I get the eye roll at that though, because that was my response initially too. It was like, that's a bunch of woo-woo-woo hippy-dippy nonsense. No, thank you. Then I saw the neuroscience. What happens when we start to criticize ourselves? So when that inner critic kicks up or we start to beat ourselves up, even if it's beating ourselves up for feeling anxious, self-criticism triggers that fight or flight response. So it's basically like pouring gasoline onto anxiety. When you are compassionate to yourself, you trigger a whole other cascade of events in your brain. You get oxytocin and dopamine, feel good bonding hormones. That's what it took for me to get on board with it. So, what this looks like in practice is talking to yourself the way you would talk to your best friend or your child. And you wouldn't say, "You freaking idiot, what's wrong with you? Why are you feeling that way?" You would say, "Oh, sweetie, this is so hard. It's hard, but you're going to get through it." That's what self-compassion sounds like. So that's a wonderful tool when you are feeling anxious, is to coach yourself through that. This is hard and you can get through it. We can use other self-talk to help. As I just said, you can't talk your way out of anxiety. You're not going to win an argument with it. What if they think badly of me? What if I mess up and get
Right.
fired? Because you don't know. No one knows the future. So you can't talk your way into certainty. What you
Mhm.
can do is sort of metacognitive work. You can talk to yourself about your experience. This is anxiety. This is discomfort, not danger. You will get through this. It will pass. So it's like kind of coaching you to get through the hard moment instead of getting into the content of what anxiety is saying of like, no, it's all going to be fine. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, then you're going to argue. That's anxiety. You can do this. Be brave. That helps. The other things, when it really is in your amygdala, so that fight or flight system is going off, it's face your fear. That's the best way to do it, is instead of letting fear call your shots and say avoid or escape, do this, you don't. You do the opposite. If anxiety says don't be assertive, go be assertive. And you have to do it scared. Like you're going to feel uncomfortable, but that starts to train your amygdala, to train your caveman. This isn't a threat. Stop giving me these signals. We're okay. But it's an action speak louder than words kind of thing. So you have to
Yeah.
show that anxious part of your brain that it's okay. The
Yeah.
grounding techniques are great. The relaxation techniques are great. Walk, like go for a brisk walk. That's a great reset. And cold is a good reset. So whether that's cold shower, I have a lot of patients who used to get those facial rollers that you can, like $10 on Amazon. You keep them in the freezer and then you can roll it on your face, the back of your neck or your wrists. That can help too.
Okay. Okay. I'm guessing that's also why cold plunging might be a thing now.
Yeah, I've seen lots of different things behind cold plunging and like the science behind it, but I think that's
Yeah.
part of it.
Okay. And I like that you said move through fear. I think that's a huge one. I
Hmm.
know for me that was one that I really had to work with, and I actually combined the two with the self-compassion. For me, I in order to embrace self-compassion, I had to almost imagine my inner child
Yeah,
like
a
as
great
a
way.
separate part of me who's the scared one, and then I have to be the adult in the situation and say, "It's okay.
Mhm.
We'll get through this. This will be a learning experience. All will be fine one way or the other." And that's where the self-compassion part started to become in practice. But moving through that fear is hard sometimes. Like you do want to try to avoid it. So,
Yeah.
how do you help people move through fear?
Yeah, one when I was in practice, so working one-on-one with people primarily with some form of anxiety, I would start from day one. We're not getting rid of your anxiety. I know that's what's bringing you in. You don't want to feel this way, but we're not going to. And I'm going to set that expectation from the jump. What we are going to do is build your courage and build your willingness. And it really, the way I talk about it when I'm on stage and talking to audiences is I call it openness. Are you open to experiencing the inside ick, that discomfort, in order to do what matters? Because if you're trying to get rid of it, it's like trying to shove a beach ball underwater. It takes a lot of energy and effort, and at some point it's going to bop you in the face, right?
Right.
Or the other way to think about it, if you're trying to get rid of anxiety, it's like scratching a mosquito bite, right? It itches, so you scratch it, but the more you scratch it, the more it itches. That's what anxiety does. Every time you escape or avoid, scratch that itch, it's going to keep coming back and it's going to get worse. So we have to start to build our tolerance for discomfort. And that's the way I talk about it, is you have to start to train yourself. I'm someone who does hard things. Part of that is shifting language. I'm pretty brutal, not brutal, forceful with, we don't use bad. Bad is not a feeling. I like when people talk, I feel bad. No, bad is a judgment. What's the feeling? You feel anxious or you feel guilty, you feel insecure, name it, but we're not going to judge it. Right. And so we're going to start to say that. And I'm going to change bad to, oh, I feel uncomfortable. It's not danger, it's discomfort. I can do hard things. And you can start small. So it's a lot like going to the gym. I'm not going to go bench press 300 pounds off the bat. I'm going to start with 30. And then I'm going to go to 35 and then 40. And it's the same way with anxiety tolerance or discomfort tolerance of discomfort. It's you start small and build your way up. And it takes practice.
I love that. And I think
Mhm.
that also goes to when we talk about resilience and building
Mhm.
resilience, all of that. And obviously with you, one of the things I love and admire most about your story is that you don't let your circumstances define what's possible for you.
Mhm.
And so when we talk about building up our level of discomfort and we talk about building resilience,
Mhm.
like we know that life is hard,
Mhm.
but how can we begin to expand what we believe is possible for ourselves?
Yeah, that's such a great question, and I have a lot of thoughts on it. I mean, one, to talk to me today feels like, "Oh, I've just never let my circumstances hold me back," and that is 100% not true, right? This was to get to this point, it was a lot of bad joke, but, like, blind stumbling and blind luck to get here. But the things that I think really help when I look back and I sort of reverse engineer my process, what got me here to this place of really, in psychology, we call it acceptance, which is it is what it is. If I can't control it or change it, I'm not going to waste my time and energy on it. Right. And I'm going to focus on the things that I can. There were a lot of things that really did that. One, as I was reading all of the science, I came across like an actual study that compared the happiness level of sighted people and blind people. And there was no difference. And that really challenged one of my core beliefs, which was blindness equals misery. And so, one, we have to start to seek out evidence to the contrary, start to look for information that proves the other side, that maybe proves you are capable. Because our brains have a built-in confirmation bias. They pay attention to what they already believe. So if you believe you're weak, less than, not a good mom, not a good leader, whatever it is, your brain can readily serve you that evidence. You have to go on a fact-finding mission to look for proof against it. So that's one thing. The other thing that was surprisingly helpful is finding role models, people who look like you or have some sort of story. For me, I found a man who's blind, but he's an Ivy League educated attorney, runs a multi-million-dollar company, has a beautiful family, writes books and speaks. And he was proof that, oh, this can be done. Blindness doesn't have to be a death sentence. And so find those role models and then start to ask, well, if it can be done, why not by me? And it might be that you have to change your beliefs or change your habits or change your skills in order to do something. I'm not a just because you dream it, it'll happen or a just be positive kind of person. But if there's proof it can be done, I don't believe that most people are truly special. I think most people who are really successful got there because they worked hard at certain things, and that's a repeatable process.
Yeah. Is that what you mean also when you say live boldly? Is that what it means? It's like,
Yeah.
doing what it takes to live the life that you want to live.
Yeah. To me, living boldly is not letting fear hold you back. It's not letting your mind call the shots. And that does mean taking risks. It means trying new things. It means going after the big goals. It means really building that courage. It doesn't mean doing all of this comfortably. Like when I look back over my life and the big steps I've taken and the big changes I've made, none of them came with calm peace. It was a lot of stomach flipping, which happens anytime you do something new, anytime you break out of your comfort zone or anytime you pull against one of those mental ropes, you're going to get discomfort because your brain's going to freak out like a toddler trying to get what it wants, which is for you to stay in your comfort zone. So to me, living bold is just, I'm not going to let my naysaying mind tell me what I can and can't do.
Yeah. And like you just said, it's like everyone can do it. Like
Mhm.
anyone can find evidence. You can break your limiting beliefs by challenging those beliefs. And I absolutely love that. Shifting gears a bit,
Mhm.
I do want to talk about positive psychology because I know that your work is rooted in positive psychology. I had my positive psychology specialization from UPenn with Martin Seligman. So I love the topic of positive psychology. And in a world that can feel heavy sometimes, from your viewpoint,
Mhm.
what does the science actually say about creating happiness?
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. So learned optimism way back. I was 21, just started graduate school. And that's one of Dr. Seligman's books from way back when. And basically, they went in and they taught fifth and sixth graders how to think more optimistically, not be positive, but basically how to have perspective when bad things happen. And they cut the rates of anxiety and depression by 50%. I was hooked. So my master's thesis was positive psychology, and it was happiness, optimism, anxiety, and depression in teens. And then I got away from it, and then I got back into it with my own sort of desperate journey for happiness. What I love about positive psychology is that it is rooted in science. These are evidence-based practices. But instead of looking at what's wrong and how do we get back to baseline, it looks at what's right and how do we get more of the good stuff. And I love that.
Mhm.
And so when I think about that, what is the science of happiness, and what are I tend to think of it more of, well, I guess, two things. One, a lot of people, when they say happiness, they mean like fleeting emotional states. Like in this moment, I feel happy. But what they actually mean is pleasure or enjoyment or fun or peace. I do not think it is possible to have that's what I call surface level happy. You can't have that all the time. Again, if a bear shows up in the woods, you are going to feel anxious, and we want to feel anxious to stay alive. So, on that surface level, we have to think of emotions like the weather pattern. It's going to change, right? You're going to have sunny some days, rain some days, and you may not like the rain, but you need it because sun all the time makes for a desert, right? So, we need all of this. When I think about happiness, I tend to think of it on a deeper level and more satisfaction or contentment with life. And it is, to me, it's the side effect of living your life well. And there are a lot of things we can do. So we can look at the PERMA theory of well-being, which I know you know. These are the 5 factors that contribute to overall well-being. And I teach people, here they are: positive emotions, engagement, relationship, meaning, and achievement. And you can start to use those as building blocks. Like, what did you get to boost your PERMA today? Did you get positive emotion? Did you get engagement or that state of flow? How are you taking care of your relationships? And kind of thinking of those as the ingredients for a happy life. And then I think the more we live in alignment with our values, and this goes back to bold living. So much of the time we're in what psychologists call a choice point, and I can either go, it's like a fork in the road. I can let my mind call the shots, or I can let my heart call the shots. So like anxiety would say avoid, but maybe my heart says be honest, right? So anxiety might say, you can't say that, she's going to get upset. But my values say, but honesty is important. So you choose your direction. The more we do that and the more we follow our heart, the happier you're going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely love that. And I agree with you. I think the biggest misconception that I see when people think about happiness is that it is some sort of destination.
Yeah.
And then once I reach that destination, all will be well and I'll have no other worries. And unfortunately, that's that's not
That's
what it is.
impossible. Yeah.
That's not what life is. But yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And another reason why I called my company Core Happiness is because I think that once you have that inner level of happiness where you are living authentically,
Yeah.
you're aligned with your values, you're aligned with what lights you up, right? What aligns with what you believe, then you can have a level of baseline
Mhm.
happiness. And I call it baseline because obviously things are going to shift. But if you have that solid foundation within yourself, then you will have a baseline of contentment and happiness.
I agree
Uh,
completely.
what is one of, I mean, outside of the definition of happiness,
Mhm.
what is a misconception or at least another big misconception that you've seen when people talk about happiness?
Yeah, they think it comes from the outside. When I get this, then I'll be
Mm.
happy. When I lose 10 pounds, when I solve this problem, when I get a boyfriend or a wife or kids, and that's not it, right? Like you said, it's not a destination. And if you're looking to outside circumstances to make you happy, it's going to be fleeting at best. And I like to think of it as there's an ice cream shop in my neighborhood called Betty Ray's. That first bite is amazing, out of this world. You're like, woo, I'm happy. But by the 100th, not so much. The 1,000th, you're going to feel ill, right? So if we're chasing pleasure instead of deep contentment and satisfaction, it's going to backfire. And I also think that the good vibes only culture, we should be happy all the time. No, again, we're not going to. You're going to have anxiety. We're actually wired as organisms to have more negative emotions than positive. It's about two-thirds negative, one-third positive because they keep us alive, right? Emotions, fundamentally, we have emotions because they serve a purpose. It's to give us a lot of information very quickly and give us a direction on how to act in a situation. But I see people, they're like, oh, I should be happy all the time. No, it's not possible, nor is it desired. I mean, it's desired, but also the cost would be you would die. And then the
Right.
other piece is to your point about this like problem-free life. I believe in my bones that that does not exist. That every time you solve one problem, you will create another. And so life is really, I think you have to accept that there is no such thing as problem-free. And what happens with our brains and their glitchy little operating system is that when we don't have problems, they create them. They start to interpret things that really aren't a big deal as a problem. So
Absolutely. And I like that you talked about just also the negativity, because I think a lot of people don't understand negativity bias
yes.
and the fact that our brains are almost designed, like you said, designed and
Yeah.
almost wired to focus on the negative over the positive.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Really don't. Or they tend to think of it as like, oh, either like I'm not negative. Like, yes, you are. If you're a human being with a brain, you are biased toward the negative. Negative things get encoded in our memory almost instantaneously. Positive things take 10 to 12 seconds. It doesn't sound like a lot, but if someone says, hey, good job, that was 2 seconds. If you don't savor it, like really hold on to it intentionally, neurologically speaking, it's like it never happened. So we're already running around biased. And so this is why there's so much science behind a gratitude practice. It's not about just being positive and like deny reality. It's about balancing out that bias that already exists. I tell people it's like going to the gym and only doing bicep curls with one arm. You're going to be real lopsided, right? So life is already
Yeah.
doing the bicep curls on the negative side. We don't need to practice that, but we do need to practice recognizing the good.
And building that psychological strength,
Mhm.
right? Which also kind of goes back to what we were talking about with building up to being like okay with the discomfort
Mhm.
or building resilience. How do we build this psychological strength to connect to creating everyday joy or meaning or
Mhm.
a level of some sort of fulfillment?
Yeah. I think as I was listening to you, I think the secret's even in your words. You're talking about building psychological strength. In my experience, a lot of people tend to think about thinking like a light bulb. Like, oh, I get it now. Cool. That's not how brains change. They change much more like bicep curls, right? Like muscles, where it takes repetition, consistent repetition to build new neural pathways, is really what we're talking about, but new thinking habits in our brain. So people will go and they'll say like, well, I tried deep breathing once and it didn't work. And I'm like, well, no kidding. You don't show up to the Super Bowl and kick your first field goal, right? You do it a
Right.
billion times so that you can do it when it matters. You can't just in one moment like, oh, I'm so grateful this happened. Like it is a practice to do that. And I love thinking about joy as a practice, right? It's great when everything lines up, stars are aligning, and everything in your life is the way you want it to be. Cool. It's easy to be happy then. That's going to be fleeting though. But if you really want to have that deep and meaningful level of happiness and that daily joy, I think there are habits we can do, like practice gratitude daily. Sit down, find whatever form works for you. Do that. I think it's connecting with other people. Make a point to smile at someone, to say hello, to give a compliment, which moves us into do acts of kindness. It feels good to do good. But we can start to intentionally design joy into our day, no matter how bad your day is.
Yeah.
And I love telling the story of this. I was listening to an interview. My business partner used to host a podcast, and she had this woman on named Gerda Weissman Klein. And Gerda survived the Holocaust. And she started talking about the good parts of the Holocaust. And I kid you not, every time I get chill bumps. But she goes on to talk about in the middle of the worst atrocity imaginable, there were bright spots, beautiful moments of other prisoners being very kind and compassionate and caring. And I walked away from that, one, mind blown, and two, taking away the point. If Gerda can find a bright spot in the Holocaust, I bet I can find one in my day. And it's if you're willing to look at it. Like, at no point did she say it wasn't that bad. She said it is that bad, and that's a part that our brains will not do naturally. We have to train them and make them do that work.
That is a very powerful example. So powerful. And I think that is, and I want to hold on it for a second, because I think that's so important today, even just to kind of have that outlook, because I know when I go into sessions, sometimes it'll start with clients who are just like, the state of the world, and how can I even think about my own life when I'm the world. And one time a client even said, like, how do you stay so positive? Like, how do you stay hopeful? But that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, I think that this is the time more than ever that we need to be hopeful. We need to look for the positive things. We need to look for something outside. The negative's always going to be there. It's always going to be there. No matter where we turn, no matter what we do, if you look at your phone, if you turn on the TV, no matter what you do, you go out in the world, you'll see the negative.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to really, truly search and look for the good and the beautiful, and really pause and take in those moments and be appreciative of them.
Absolutely. I think it matters more now than it hasn't in a long time, for those reasons that you're saying. And I have this conversation with people a lot, because I don't know that I have all of the answers, but where I've landed with this is I really focus on what's in my circle of control. I very intentionally do not watch the news. I do not read things online. I do not take in that content. And I have people accuse me of burying my head or being willfully ignorant, but my take on it is, that's like your diet. I eat leafy greens, not because I love kale, but because it's good for my body. Watching that content, if you think about, the news is designed to hook your attention. What hooks attention? Fear and anger.
Yep.
Okay. So I just think of it as your mental diet. What are you taking in? So if I can't control it and that information won't influence my decisions, I don't need to know. People are very uncomfortable with that, but I think that's important. I think choosing hope is kind of an act of defiance right now. And I love the artist Pink has said, like, kindness is an act of rebellion. And I love that. I think right now, when so many things are they're playing to our mind's worst characteristics, and they're creating this us them, they're creating this fear and despair. And I'm not saying that things aren't whatever right now, but in that, I get to choose how I want to show up, and I can let fear and anger take over, or I can stay true to me and try to be kind and try to hold on to hope and do the things that I can do that I'm going to feel good about 10 years from now, looking back to say I showed up as myself, which is courage, compassion, and curiosity. So that's what I'm doing in this mess right now.
And that's amazing. I actually literally said those words just the other day to someone. It's just, how do you want to show up? Focus on you and what you can control. How do you want to show up? Yes, everything could be falling apart. Sure, the world may be crumbling, however you were seeing it. But how do you want to show up in that moment?
Right.
That's what you focus on.
Absolutely.
Right?
Because that's what you have control over.
Yes.
Right. And if you sit here and you say, well, I can't until, you're putting conditions on your happiness. I can't be happy until I lose 10 pounds. You may or may not ever. I can't be happy until this politician is or isn't, or this event is or isn't. I don't have control over that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So good. I want to go back quickly to your book, because speaking of so good, your book is a very beautiful blend of science and soul, the way I see it. And so for listeners who are listening to our conversation today and they are like, this sounds so inspiring and I want to live boldly, I want to do this, what action can they take outside of what we talked about, such as, gratitude and grounding practices? What action can they take? Like, even if it's something small that they could start today.
Ooh, okay, one, you could buy the book,
Yeah.
but shameless plug aside, the one thing that comes to mind that I think is really, really important that a lot of people don't do is to get clear on who you are. And I mean, we can sidestep all of the, is there a real you or are there different sides of our personality? But what I'm really talking about is getting clear on your core values. And a lot of people don't do that. But one of my favorite ways, and it's going to sound a little morbid, but is to think about your death and it's your eulogy, right? People are standing at your funeral and they're eulogizing you. What would you want them to say about who you are, how you moved through the world, and what you stood for? And that becomes really, really important because when you know the answer to that question, everything else sort of falls into place. Like, again, I know for me, it's courage, curiosity, compassion. So when I hit a hard moment, I get to ask, what's the curious option here? What's the compassionate option here? What's the courageous option here? When you know that, that's your roadmap. That it's more like your compass to point you toward north whenever you get lost. But people don't take the time to figure it out, or they answer it very quickly based on what they think they should. And we don't want the shoulds here.
Yes. And I'm so glad you said that because I was thinking it. I was like, a lot of people answer because I obviously being in core happiness with my business, the first thing that I do is we focus on what are your core values.
Makes sense?
And more often than not, people focus on everything that they think they should be doing.
Yep.
All the things that they should be checking off the list. This is important to me. This is important to me. This is important to me. And then if we go back and say, okay, where in the last 72 hours, we can even go up to a week, have you spent your time in this list of core values? It's very different. And that's always so eye-opening to people
Yes.
because it just doesn't even register to them that a lot of the disconnect that they're feeling is that they're not even spending a lot of time in the areas that they claim to value the most.
Right.
So then we have to look at that and say, is that a core value or is it something that you think you should be doing or is it an obligation or something that you're doing for something else or is it I call them roles. I mean, we all play different roles in life, but like, is it a role that you're playing a little bit too well to where that has now become your definition of you when it's not really you?
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, I love the work that you're doing. You're speaking my language. This is it. And I think I have a whole soapbox. I think should is the most harmful word in the English language. It's a frenemy. It's like the mean girls, right? Where it pretends to be your friend. You should do this, you should do that. But the only things that will follow a should are anxiety, guilt, or anger. And so one of the best things I ever did personally, and it was advice from a friend who's also a psychologist, is ban the word should. I very rarely speak it out loud and I very rarely speak it in my head because it's just an expectation that most of the time we didn't even consent to.
Absolutely. Yes. I know we're close on time, but before we wrap up, I love to leave listeners with something they can carry into their week. We've actually talked a lot about things that they can carry into their week, but very specifically, I wanted to know from you, what's one truth or mindset shift? Because I think the mindset is where a lot of people get stuck, and we've talked a lot about limiting beliefs and conditioning. So what's one truth or mindset shift that you wish every person could hold on to, especially when things feel hard?
Can I give two?
Absolutely.
Okay. So one, and this is, it was life-changing advice for me, and I got it from a meme on Facebook. And so do what you will with it. But it's just because life gives you a cactus doesn't mean you have to sit on it. And we spend a lot of time sitting on that cactus right now. The world feels like a big cactus. Don't sit on it. The other piece, the one that I really wish people would start to do is you versus your mind. You are not the same thing. So start to note it. Like I will even say, oh, my mind is telling me not to do that. Or my mind is saying you messed up. So just adding that, my mind is telling me. And then you get to decide who gets the point. Your mind, if it tells you what to do and you listen, it gets the point. If you boss it back, that's how I teach kids is boss it back. You get the point. It's like, if you go to the gym, your mind is going to have 8,000 excuses why you shouldn't go because you're tired, you had a long day. Okay, if you sit on the couch and Netflix, your mind wins. You get up and go anyways, you win. And that's the easiest way I know to start to master your mind.
Yeah. I love the boss it back.
Mhm. Isn't it great?
I
Yeah.
like that. Boss it
Yeah.
back. Okay. I like that.
Mhm.
Awesome. Um, we will be sure to link to your website, socials, your TEDx, and your book, of course.
Awesome.
But is there anything that you wanted to talk about, such as anything exciting coming up for you, or any last thoughts that you wanted to share with our listeners?
Yeah. I would be more than happy to connect with people anywhere, on social. And also, if you're interested in the book and you want to try a free chapter, I have that as well, both in audio and digital version. So it's, if you join my newsletter, so it's all over my website, and you can get that chapter and really try it out and see what you think. And then I do send out a monthly newsletter on the first Sunday of every month, and that'll get you on that list too.
Perfect. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, Dr. Ashley, this has been such an amazing conversation. I've loved literally every single minute of it.
Same.
Um,
I am so glad to be here. This was such a fun conversation.
I thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to rate it or leave a review. If you have any thoughts or questions, I would love to hear from you. You can email podcast@corehappiness.com. For show notes and additional resources, you can visit www.corehappiness.com. As always, please remember, never let anyone diminish your light. Until next time, sending you my love.